Now, chief executives are always complaining these days that they spend 95% of their time on an area of the business that generates less than 5% of income. Does that suggest that they're really too mired in sort of the here and now, and not really engaging in all that blue sky thinking as to how the industry will look 3, 5, 10 years from now?
It may imply that. I think the point is that 95%, if it is indeed that, is being spent on an incredibly important part of their business. And the concern is that they're looking for immediate ROI. Investing that time in what is a relatively small proportion of their current income is important. I can recall the media industry saying exactly the same thing 12 years ago when digital income was about 0.5%. And they said it would never be much. And it's not so long ago that it reached parity with television, which nobody would have foreseen. And the problem is that nobody was really looking that far forward, and everybody was considering the very short term. And the danger is that the publishing industry does exactly the same thing.
But they are quite bogged down in the minutiae, aren't they, of sort of the day-to-day, and
Yes.
not the big picture.
You're right. Individuals do come from an industry that has been pretty staid, fairly predictable. Developments have been reasonably obvious. Technology hasn't made massive leaps and bounds in the previous decade. And all of a sudden, within a 12-month period, all hell's let loose. And everybody's trying to cope with it. But the farseers are incredibly important. And I've seen little evidence of the crystal ball gazing that is incredibly important to give the industry an indication as to what to look for and what is really, really important.
We may be in the last gasp of publishing as we know it, and it may look entirely different in 5 years.
It will look entirely different. There's no two ways about it. And the fact is that publishing will still exist, except I think the terminology will change. Publishing is something that we've stuck with for a very long time. The language is content. It doesn't matter whether it's on the screen, on your handheld, or in a book, it's content. And it's about content management. And it's bringing the experts to bear, particularly the editors, to make best value of that content and also to realise the commercial opportunity that comes with it. Now, at the end of the day, the job of a chief executive, come what may, is to run a company to sustainable profit. Whatever that individual has to work with, whether it be the team, the content, the product, the brand, the parameters are the same. The dynamics are much more considerable in this current climate for publishing, and there is cultural change as well. You can't suddenly staff up with hundreds of digital experts that weren't previously in the industry. They've got to come from outside. That inevitably will invoke cultural change and many others that CEOs and MDs and so on will have to deal with.
I mean, there have been some high-profile appointments from outside the trade, of course, but I suspect that more appointments to digital roles have come from within the trade, bright young things who are techie. Yeah,
there is an element of the comfort zone of converting people that you already know or are already familiar with.
Just having your team around you.
Yes, evolving their roles. The problem is the pace of change. The publishing industry has got about 24 months from about a year ago to sort it out. And I just don't think it's possible or viable to convert people who historically have been publishing and not digital into something that is viable today. You have to import people from other industries. The media industry is one of the most obvious areas because it went through this revolution a decade ago. And so there are some very learned, very capable individuals who really do want to work in publishing because it is content management. The point you made about salary is absolutely right. Pound for pound, a digital person is going to cost you approximately 35% more than a traditional publishing person at almost any level up to, but not including, the most senior executives. That is a significant burden for any company to bear, and they've got to work out whether they can afford it and what returns they're going to get and over what period.
Now, the climate generally is improving, we're told. How is recruitment? I mean, are you seeing an increased number of vacancies to fill?
Yeah, I mean, last year wasn't a great year for anybody, but certainly the last 2 or 3 quarters we've seen increases each time. We're currently up 18% on the previous quarter, and we're up 22-23% in the current quarter against the same quarter last year. It is still the case that the bulk of those positions are traditional publishing. About 40% of the new briefs coming in are digital.
Do you think we have enough bright people are coming into publishing? We're turning out dozens of people every year from publishing courses. What do you think about that?
It's a contentious issue because historically, I think we'd all like to think that individuals coming into publishing did it because it was a vocation. It's something that was just in them. It inspired them. It's what they'd always wanted to do. It's a conviction. I think we've got to be prepared for a generation of people coming into publishing that are content conscious. They want to get their opinions out, and they want to make money from it. They won't show the same degree of loyalty to the company brands that has, I think, historically been the case. I think there's going to be far higher turnover. Demand is definitely going to outstrip supply of the talented people over the next 2 to 3 years, which will push the prices up. But we've got to get away from this rather romantic view that all publishing is because people just are inspired to do it and love to do it. It's a business. It's there to make money, and it makes money by embracing talent, just like many other industries do. And if we're teaching people and advocating that they should come into the publishing industry, all training has got to be very contemporary. There's got to be a great deal more investment back into university courses to make individuals prepared for the industry that we're going to have, not the one that we used to have. And there is a lag there that hasn't been addressed.
And finally, what's the London Book Fair this year hold for you?
Well, it's going to improve our business. We've got a lot more people on the ground. We've been busy hiring people, and it gives us an opportunity to meet with plenty of our client contacts.
Steve Hyde, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.